Hey, how's it going, everyone? And today we are going to take a look at Tim Carpenter. So, this is nothing really important, but basically, this is just a small table of contents of what we're going to be going through. So, I'll be talking about who Tim is and how he started, and just some of his famous works, along with some of his best pieces, with some interviews in between I want to go through. So, who's Tim Carpenter? Well, he's obviously a very good photographer, but he's also a writer as well. He does he has created photography books and published them, and has received a Master's of Fine Arts in Photography at the Hartford Art School in 2012. So it's kind of unknown how he got started at an early age in his life, but it seems like he had at least some deep interest or some curiosity in photography when he was in his high school years or college years, since he was going after an MFA in the fine arts field. But he also explained how he liked the idea of a camera and just liked the functionality of it. And he talked about how it was very unique to try to fit picture in a vertical format and how you can organize all those subjects in it. And so he also likes to focus on parts in the world that seem kind of disconnected from us. His connection with the ice planet, and you may not know who the ice planet is, but the ice planet is basically um, a big distributor for Tim Carpenter, because when he got into the ice planet, he was able to really publicize his work from that point on. So the way he got in there was he made a maquette, which is basically like a sculpture or some kind of sketch art of the local objects book. And the local objects we'll talk about more, but it was one of his most popular works that he made. And so he basically showed his prototype to a couple of trusted friends, and these friends also had some deep connections to people that were part of the ice plant distribution, and so that's how he was able to build a connection with them. So this is just sort of a list of the books that he's done, like Christmas Day, Bucks Pond, Illinois Central, which is focused around his home. He worked in Brooklyn, and he was born in Illinois Central, so he takes some photos around his area. And these are just some more of his famous works that we'll be talking more about, like The King of Birds and House in the Tree. But the local objects, of course, which is one of his most early published titles. All right, so let's take a look at one of his photos here called, and this is in one of his books called The Ancient Regime. Now, the reason why he called it this is that ancient is more of an it means like it's more ephemeral, like long lasting, essentially. And so, like this photo seems sort of like ancient, like it's long lasting. And so, this photo was obviously a black and white print, and it was made in the heat and humidity of the central Illinois in the summer. So that's just one of the photos, and then here's a couple other photos we can look at as well that sort of follow that particular pattern. So with all these photos that Tim Carpenter does, it's all made in this black and white print, and that's just kind of the format or template that he sort of uses for his images. And there's a reason why we'll kind of get towards that, towards the middle here. So how Tim approaches landscapes and urban spaces. So there's an interview between Tim and Gianopolo Arena, and so he asks him this question, and he responds that there's sort of this physical slash logistical side of it. So he explains by walking around his hometown and just sort of not trespassing into like areas and just sort of walking along like the sidewalks and um, sort of following that path, he's able to sort of like recreate, not exactly recreate, but take photos that resemble to memories and dreams. And that actually, and what I said there actually came from a reviewer, and this reviewer, I believe, was one of the publishers of Tim Carpenter, and he said that these pictures exist at the intersection of memories and dreams, like something glimpsed in the foothills of sleep. So I believe this is what Tim Carpenter's going for, and it actually is because he wants to show that there's this disconnectedness with this subject, and we're just sort of unaware of it. So he finds that the distance helps him establish an important theme, calibrating ourselves to the landscapes and the objects around us. So, for instance, this is one of his most well-known ones, the local object. So, the local object is composed of 74 photos, and this was, of course, published by the Ice Plant, and it's supposed to be an iconography of the American Midwest. And so he explains how this was inspired from Marilyn Robinson's novel, and Marilyn Robinson is, well, here I'll show you some of the next photos here too, just to sort of show that commonality with the images. But when he's talking about Marilyn Robinson, he's talking about how this photographer had a book called Housekeeping Items, and so she would take photos of housekeeping items that we don't really acknowledge that much, and we don't really see the piece with them, but we can look at some of these household items and see a memory or something nostalgic from them, and that's why he draws sort of that innovation from that person's work into his. So as we can see here, we've seen stuff like this before, but we're not quite aware of it. We're kind of disconnected from the actual piece that's hidden within these images. So Christmas Day, Bucks Pond Road is it has like a similar way of explaining things, and sorry for these photos, I could have found some better photos, so I expanded them so the resolution's a bit off, but photos like these sort of share those similar memories and stuff. So again, another interview with someone different, Carlos Bratti. He talks about or asks questions about Tim, about his Christmas Day illustrations, and something I liked about that Tim Carpenter responded with was the photographs in Christmas Day, Bucks Pond Row are less about the confines of this specific time and place than about a poetic strategy for narrowing the distance between human desire and the factual content of the everyday world. Christmas Day, Bucks Pond Row was all shot in one day, according to the interview, which is quite amazing, honestly, just to get all those photos in one day. But again, he likes to focus on the distance away from his subject, and it becomes a very important and common theme in his work. So when we take a look at Still Feel Gone, we see another unique sequence of these landscapes that are, ephemeral. And this image right here shows Tim's way on explaining how we are unaware of the peace we have in life. And just right here in this image, there's something that's just peaceful about it, nothing harmful, and we've seen stuff like this before in our memories or in the past, and we aren't aware of the piece that's right in front of us, essentially. But this was one of his projects or one of his books that he collaborated with another person, and that other person was Nathan Pierce. And that's not the only book he's collaborated with too, but we'll get to that. So Illinois Central, like I was saying before, this was another one. This is some photos that were shot in his neighborhood, and as you can see, this is sort of a one-point perspective shot, and I think there's kind of a deeper meaning behind this. Like maybe this older man is sort of looking off into the horizon, maybe into the sort of like looking off into the future, but it's just so far away that you can't even see it. So as you can see, the lines that are going to one vanishing point from the train tracks, they reach that vanishing point, and because it's just so far away, it's just too hard to see. So another one is Township, and we get to another interview where he talks about he has this exterior slash social way of photography, and I believe this is sort of his kind of way of showing his social photography to an extent. And The King of Birds is sort of showing an activity, sorry, I'm running low on time here, so I'm kind of moving a little bit quicker, but right here, Tim's kind of showing the actions that are coming from the boy, and this is something that we may reminisce when we were younger, because maybe we were doing stuff that's similar actions that this boy is doing, but it's something that we kind of disconnect ourselves with, and it sort of becomes like a dream but more like just like, again, like a memory. So this was another collaborative project with different people such as Jay Carrier, Nelson Chan, and Carl Woolley. And so, again, this evidence towards shooting the images sort of represents those memories. A House in a Tree, and with a commonality with all of his work is that, as you can see here, these are all photos that we've seen before, such as A House in a Tree. We have seen that, but we're not very aware of it, and we sort of just disconnect ourselves with it. So, on December 3rd, 2018, there's an interview with Tin from Brad, and excuse me for pronouncing his last name wrong, but Feuerhelm, hopefully I pronounced that right, but he asks him about how he does his photography work, and so again, like I was talking previously, explains about his exterior and his social. He explains about being more of an exterior social photographer to an extent. And something I liked that I mentioned was maybe just to plant a stake in the ground. I also like to say topics are not necessary, which doesn't at all mean that one can't have one, just that one isn't needed. If I'm interpreting the psychogeography concept properly, I don't see it as a topic, but rather one of many aspects that separate a singular human being. So I just like that he mentioned the psychogeography because that is what his work is based around. It's based around this exploration of urban environments and sort of looks into the parts that are drifting in it, the sort of playful or fun sides of the urban environments, and just sort of emphasizes the parts that are drifting from us. But anyway, that is it, guys. So if you have any questions about it, please comment down below. This is just my citations page here, and thank you for watching.